So what's the playbook for economic success these days? Well, if you're looking for just one single answer, you're probably looking in the wrong place. See, in the world's most dynamic emerging markets, there isn't one path to growth. There are a whole bunch. Today, we're going to uncover 3 really unique playbooks that are completely reshaping the global economy.
So, where is the future of the global economy really being written? The thing is, the answer isn't in just one place. It's unfolding right now, in real time, across 3 different continents, and each one is following a completely different strategy.
So let's take a little journey, shall we? We're going to start in the financial hubs of Asia, then we'll swing over to the digital powerhouses of Latin America, and we'll finish up with the mobile-first innovators in Africa to see exactly how these new economic futures are being built piece by piece.
Okay, our first stop is Asia, and the story here is all about a cautious but very, very strategic shift in capital. You could call it a hesitant recovery, but if you look closely, it reveals a whole new playbook for investors in the region.
So get this, after 2 straight years of some pretty steep declines, private equity in the Asia-Pacific region saw an 11% rebound. Now, that's not a massive off-the-charts boom, but it is a really significant jolt of optimism. It tells us that investors are carefully and very strategically starting to get back in the game.
And you can see a huge pivot in where that capital is actually going. Investment in China? Its share of the deal value has been cut almost in half since 2020. So where's all that money flowing instead? Well, it's heading to countries like India and Japan, with India in particular seeing some really strong double-digit growth. We're talking about a massive redirection of investment here.
And it's not just where the money is going, but how it's being invested. We're seeing this really clear shift away from growth deals and towards buyout deals, which now make up over half the market. It makes sense, right? In this kind of uncertain climate, investors don't just want a piece of the action, they want to be in the driver's seat so they can manage risk and steer the company themselves.
So how are they generating returns? Well, the golden era of just kind of riding the market waves is pretty much over. The new playbook is all about something called value creation plans, or VCPs. This means funds are getting their hands dirty. Instead of just throwing money at a company, they're actively helping them expand into new markets, optimize their supply chains, and drive that top-line growth themselves.
So, to wrap up our first stop, the winning strategy in Asia today is all about smart, calculated capital shifts, taking control of your investments, and a relentless focus on creating real, fundamental value from the ground up.
All right, now let's hop over to Latin America, where a completely different playbook is dominating the scene. Here, the story is all about the rise of these ecosystem kings, who are building these enormous digital platforms that are totally replacing the old industrial giants of the past.
To really understand what's new, you've got to appreciate the old. Take a company like Vale. Founded way back in 1942, it built its entire empire on physical assets. Iron ore mines, railways, ports. This was the traditional path to success in Latin America, heavy, industrial, and it took decades to build.
Okay, now contrast that with Mercado Libre, the region's e-commerce titan. It was literally born in a garage when internet penetration in its home country of Argentina was just 3%. Can you imagine? No mines, no railways, just an idea and a belief that tech could solve some of the region's biggest challenges.
And this is how they pulled it off. They built this incredible, self-reinforcing ecosystem, what you'd call a flywheel. It all started with a simple marketplace, but that created a delivery problem, so they built Mercado Envíos. All those transactions created a trust and payment problem, so boom, they built Mercado Pago. And finally, to fuel the whole thing, they solved the capital problem with Mercado Crédito. Each piece brilliantly solves a local problem and just makes the entire system stronger.
And the scale of this ecosystem today is just staggering. Brazil, the region's biggest economy, now accounts for over half of Mercado Libre's total revenue. Think about that. This isn't just a successful company anymore, it's become a core piece of economic infrastructure for pretty much the entire continent.
So, our second playbook is crystal clear. In Latin America, the path to success isn't just about selling a product. It's about building a dominant, integrated ecosystem that becomes the go-to solution for a whole bunch of local challenges.
For our final stop, we're heading to Africa, where we find our third and maybe the most disruptive playbook of them all. This one isn't about shifting capital or building walled-off ecosystems. It's about a grassroots technological revolution, and it's all being led by the mobile phone.
Just look at a company like Flutterwave. By getting a new payment license in Ghana, it's plugging directly into a digital payments market that's expected to be worth nearly $13 billion in just a few years.
This is what it looks like when fintech innovation meets regulatory progress, and it's happening all across the continent.
And the adoption on the ground is just explosive. Take MTN in Nigeria. It now has 5.5 million active mobile money, or MoMo, wallets. This isn't some niche product for techies, it's a mainstream financial service, and it's all delivered through the simplest device that's already in everyone's pocket.
So what's driving all this? It's a massive wave of startups that are laser-focused on solving uniquely African challenges. They're building solutions for everything, from really complex B2B payments to bringing millions of unbanked people into the formal economy for the very first time.
But let's be totally clear here. This environment is incredibly tough. The startup mortality rate is high. Nigeria, a huge hub of innovation, also saw 25 startups shut their doors in just the last decade. It's a super high-stakes game of high risk, but also potentially very high reward.
And that right there defines our third playbook. In Africa, success isn't about improving old systems, it's about completely leapfrogging them. Why build bank branches and landlines when a mobile phone can do it all? This is all about building a 21st century economy without being tied to the infrastructure of the 20th.
So there you have it. One world, 3 continents, 3 powerful and completely distinct strategies for economic growth. So let's recap real quick. Asia's playbook is all about cautious capital and control. Latin America's is about building these dominant ecosystems, and Africa's is driven by disruptive, mobile-first innovation. The key takeaway here is pretty clear. There is no longer a single emerging market strategy. It just doesn't exist anymore. Which leaves us with one final and really crucial question. As these regions forge their own paths, are they just catching up to the rest of the world? Or are they creating entirely new blueprints for economic growth? And if that's the case, it may not be long before the rest of the world starts copying their playbooks. That's the future of the global economy being written right now.